as chairman, she takes minutes.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, but she'll smarten up after a while.
She will.
I'll just keep the easy part, you just fire the numbers.
That works.
Eric?
Scott's the numbers.
Scott, it might be helpful if you explain to Kobe how we've done this in the past.
Well, we usually jump up and down and yell and scream at each other. And we finally come to consensus after a while
I don't
when
remember
Tom
that.
calms us all down. So, no.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Usually what we
Look like I
do,
fell off a cabbage patch? Don't answer.
I don't think we throw cabbages in me anymore. No. But what we usually do is we usually go down through all these, if anybody has any particular issues with something, we usually just move everything over. And if somebody has a particular issue or something, we can come back to it. When that gets done, usually there's a summary sheet that I generate, which has the MS forms tied out to the summary, and also it predicts in terms of what the tax rate's gonna be. And that gives us an idea, you know, are we suggesting or recommending a budget that's gonna raise the tax rate, you know, 10%, or is it gonna be like a reduction in tax rate? And that's usually what gets presented to the select board on December, whatever it is, 7th, whatever it is.
Third, I think.
Third.
No, the third is
Right?
our second meeting
Oh, no,
on our own.
ninth.
And
So
then
we-
after that.
Ninth.
We usually get through part of it tonight. We go till
Yeah.
people want to call, and then we,
And the other thing is, John's gonna do a presentation. Usually we get something from the CIP committee, but the CIP committee is, I won't say not working, but limited in their,
not working,
Membership.
is pretty good.
well, I'm just trying to be nice. So John's gonna go through that
Defunct?
because significant
Pretty
portion
much.
of that is those monies that get sent to the capital reserve funds. So, and I think from the last presentation, John was showing us it's like 1,000,003 or something, so. That's kind of like the broad overview.
One of the challenges
Did we
that
get
I'm
that?
having is I've never seen the process actually sort of unfold.
That's why I was.
And I understand that the overview,
One for me.
but I require touch points to be
Well,
able to.
if you take the, you saw the budget worksheet
remember, was it
that Andy
emailed
sent
or-
out, that's what we're gonna work from tonight,
Mhm.
which was 26 pages long, which is why I didn't print it.
Are you seeing
And it says
any
it
of
in a,
these
it's about a
in my
10%
background
change from last
deliberate
year or
on
something.
purpose, or
But
Yeah,
this
this is
one
only the
It's
ABC.
locked. We can
so it's
fill
not-
with it,
and
right? It's
Scott
not gonna mess up
happens to be a
something,
member of
or
the
is John
ABC,
gonna
or
just
is
do
a
the
select person.
page?
John's gonna do something
So,
completely
yeah, it's
different.
just
That document that you have there is
Now
the,
we're going over all
is
the
the-
stuff that we've heard.
well, it's the whole
Say
budget
whether
of
we
the
agree
operating
or-
budget. What John's looking at for financial planning tool is completely different.
Okay, gotcha.
I have one, Tom, that I can let you have.
No, was it,
Can I call
I
this
don't-
meeting to order? We're 2 minutes late.
Yep.
Okay. And I have a motion to open the meeting, or I just call it to order,
Just
right?
call it.
Okay, so it's 7:02.
and we're not recording or anything tonight, or are we? Yeah?
Oh,
Oh, it is.
Watch your
Okay.
language.
on duty.
Yeah. I can't swear, are you tonight?
No.
All right.
English.
In English.
So one of the things, I do have a question with regard to, you know, as we look at the whole thing that's happening in the town, is our goal to keep it as close to last year? Is there a contingency budget where if it goes down, then it automatically is plus 0.5%?
No,
No, so if
We
it
need-
goes down,
yeah.
you have no budget.
we can, if it fails,
Right.
oh, if it
Fails,
fails,
yes.
there's a default budget,
Yes,
yes.
a default
There's a
budget.
default
Yes, there is a
budget.
budget.
Okay.
Which is what the budget was in this current fiscal year, plus any commitments the town has made, like if there's contracts or something like that. And usually there's not too much added.
Okay.
So, yeah, and like, if you're living in the town of Deerfield, I believe what Andy said, the last 7 years, they haven't voted for the proposed budget, they've taken the default, which is kind of depressing, but, you know, that's what they do. So,
Well, I think we need to be also considering the fact that I read an article about funding for special education services in districts is getting a significant hit, like a third. And it will be given to the taxpayers, the local communities to offset,
Yeah.
because by law you have to do it.
mm.
So, anyway.
Luckily, we don't have to deal with the school budget.
No, but I think if the school budget is going up, we
Oh,
also
that's-
need to
yeah.
be mindful
Do
of
we have an
that.
estimate for?
Then they'll send us that, and
And I don't have that quite yet. That will come with the documents we get on Thursday night,
Okay.
in terms of what it is. And the thing is, you are correct, because in this particular town, the county, state education, school, and the town all come together on one bill. So the thing is, when a taxpayer gets the bill, oh, bill from the town, it's not, oh, geez, the school budget went up 20%, and they're just looking at the bottom line. They don't really care.
it is separated out so you can see it. However,
Most people don't.
most people don't, yeah.
And the budget that we're working on here usually accounts for about 15% of the
It's very
overall
small.
tax rate,
Very small.
so
15%,
that,
okay.
that's just a ballpark, but
Overall.
generally, yeah.
And it's all get predicated by the fact of what's our gross evaluation. Has it grown, 10%, 5%, 4%? It's usually single digit. 2%? You think 2%? Okay.
Well, it's usually down around,
Yeah, it's usually about $5-6 million. So that gets spread around. Was it 2 years ago, we reduced the tax rate by like a nickel, I think, something like that, so,
Because of the evaluation change.
I don't know if it's
I
valuation.
think you
use some
kicked
of the-
in
So
some
you
too,
kicked
to
in,
keep
Yeah,
it
there's,
down.
there's not too much to kick in, there's 67,000 we dumped in.
That's
So
it.
I'm not sure if we'll dump in 50 or 100, whatever it is. But it also depends in terms of what the unassigned fund balance is. They're showing 2.5 million, I don't think it's 2.5 million dollars. So,
What was I gonna say? It's gone, it's been a long day.
So in general, Kobe, we look at all the stuff that's needed, all the social services, all the public works, all the departments, everything else, and we have to try to get them the money that they need to operate. And then we see what extra stuff or whatever might be able to be given, or in some cases, maybe reduced a little bit or something.
It's a paving budget, we'll knock 100 grand off.
Right,
Next.
something like that.
One thing that I
That
have
doesn't
tried,
matter.
I hope that we've had over the years, which we usually don't get, is an idea from the select board, what kind of an increase in the tax rate they were willing to live with. And
Right.
it is,
we haven't talked about that, we talked about, to the department heads, keep it reasonable in terms of like what the inflation rate was. But if they need something, they need to put it in, they need to put in the justification for it. So for instance, right now, over the current budget, what's being requested is over $400,000 more.
it's about
So
8%.
8%.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is also you've got revenue coming in that's gonna offset that, but also in terms of your gross evaluation, that's gonna increase a little bit. So the form that I usually did, the summary, usually has a breakout in terms of what those tax rates are gonna be for those four entities. The county, school, education tax, and the town rate. So you can see what's happening.
So what we do in general is we give a recommendation to the select board. And then the select board, we have the benefit of Scott actually being on the ABC as well, so we kind of
I
have,
don't know if that's a benefit.
well, I think so, because we kind of know, and
Well, you're
some of the
functioning as a
opinion
liaison,
of what
essentially.
is actually gonna be able to,
Yeah. The thing is, at least for me, it's another 4 or 5 pairs of eyes in terms of what, the thought process is. And, do we take every single consideration or every single thing you recommend? No, but most of them we do. So, and the thing is, for us, we're the ones that get yelled at, oh, my taxes are up so high, blah, blah, blah. So there's, at least for me, it's a moderation. There's a central, common ground someplace. And what that is, for the 3 of us, they're in different places probably.
Mm,
But yeah,
Okay, all right. So do you start with just reviewing the budget that was sent out? We start at the top and work our way down, or do you start somewhere else?
Could we consider Mr. Tappan's time and have him do his thing first,
Okay,
so he can leave?
okay.
That would be good.
This is yours, meeting. Couple of things, last time I did not mention that. If you want an independent evaluation of what the town's priorities should be for projects, that should be coming from the CIP.
Which isn't,
If you want to know how much should be put into trust and reserve funds, that's what the FPT tells you. They're two very different things.
Right.
The other thing I should tell you is, my wife has a saying, "Me-go, M-E-G-O, my eyes glaze over." And if you let me go, I am capable of going into so much detail that your eyes will glaze over. So you control, it's up to you.
So,
I will just
Quick
do
and
a little
easy.
quick intro, and then you decide what you want to look at and what you want to change. What I have before you is version 6.
How do I describe this in the minutes? What are you doing?
reviewed FTP with John Tappan.
Reviewing financial planning tool, or FPT, with,
The biggest thing you have to do with minutes is get a general sense of what was discussed, not detailed, whatever,
Right.
but also you have to document the
Decisions.
motions, and
motions.
who seconded, what the vote was, etc.
Okay.
So it's really
We
decisions.
probably won't make any tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. So just basically had a discussion with John Tappan about capital reserve fund, trust funds, and then I think after that, then we can discuss the budget. But I agree with Pat, usually we don't make any decisions, usually. Not that we can't, but usually we don't.
and there's actually no requirement, as long as everybody's here, that you make motions and seconds and so forth. Trustees of trust funds, we don't do that.
I'm sorry.
With the trustees of trust funds, I'm the chair, we do not make motions in the seconds. So we sit around and talk and we come to decision, come to agreement.
So maybe we could just go through the ones that we usually deposit to, and
Yep.
just make sure what the FTP is saying, is that what we want to recommend, or do we want to recommend something different?
So I sent out to you version 5,
Yep.
0.05. What I have here is 0.06. And the only changes are, I made some minor display changes on the quick view and the increased examples tabs. And I added a CPU worksheet as a lookup table for the increased examples. So there's now 29 tabs,
Oh,
29 worksheets here. And the beginning of year balance, I did not make any changes. I went back and reevaluated this 4%. I do think that we will come in at, overall, over the course of the year, more than 4%. Right now, we are almost down to 4.5. We've been, for almost a year, we were above 4.8 effective on all town money, but that's going down. But if we follow the schedule, not this past year, but in previous years, the money comes out before the end of the year. And this doesn't really account for that. It does account for the money going in 3 months into the year, that's what that 75% is. I think we're really gonna average probably around 4.2, 4.3. But we'll lose something at the end of the year when we pay.
just for your edification, what he's talking about is the treasurer, basically the town fronts all the expenses. So things get paid out of the town accounts, and then near the end of the year, the goal is that those particular requests go to the trustees of the trust fund so that the town could get reimbursed. Last 2 years at least, that's been delayed until the next fiscal year, kind of screws things up a little bit. So that money sits in their account because they can earn more money than the town can on those particular funds. So it's a benefit to the town for them to keep it longer, to get a better return.
Last year, the town on its trust and reserve funds earned over $196,000. And historically, we've been able to earn a higher rate than the treasurer does. And it's not because we're smarter. It's for the treasurer, like 4/5 of his total money goes out and comes back in, and goes out, comes back in the span of a year. Whereas for us, it's more like 1/5 goes out just over the course of a year, so
Yeah.
we can negotiate with banks much better rates because we keep money there for quite a while.
The taxes come in July, they come in December, and then for every year, month of the fiscal year, about a little over $1 million goes out to the school district. And then about $1.5 million in December goes out to the county. So the treasurer has like, July, he's got a whole bunch of money, and then it kind of dips down, then it goes really low, and then he gets money in December, and then it dips down a little bit in the county, and then he just dips all the way till he gets to June. So the thing he has to watch out for is cash flow. So, but that's his problem.
That's his
Not
part.
ours.
Yeah, we don't,
And the thing is, if he ever goes too low, he can always say to the trustees, I'm getting kind of low, I paid already for whatever this thing is, can I get it reimbursed? He hasn't had to do that. I don't know when the last time he had to do that.
No, we always make sure that we're able to do big reimbursements in November. And if we don't have a lot of money in demand deposits, which we do now, but if we didn't, when we have a lot of money in time deposits, we confer with him in beginning of November to say, how does it look, do you need it? Because we have CD ladders maturing in end of October, so that they'd be available in November if he needs it.
yeah, this was the schedule like we talked about last time that shows that the 2025 column are
This
the,
is what was
yeah.
put in.
that was what was, those are the warrant articles we voted on last year for the money that goes into the trust funds. And the column, correct me if I'm wrong, John, the calculated column is what the FTP is currently showing for what we should put in for this coming year.
For what is entered in the
What's in
the
here.
FET
And
number.
one of the questions I asked him before we started was, when is our, because the two, obviously the ones that leap off the page at us are the fire department and the highway department. In the fire department, we actually have a fire truck purchase planned for fiscal 2027. And
Is
if
engine
we
two.
keep underfunding that bucket of money, we're gonna be short about $400,000 if that $1.2 million is close.
So there is significant uncertainty in this. This real and quality cost increase of 4% is what it has been historically, but there is a lot of uncertainty in it. It's based on these increase examples, particularly this engine one, which was replaced in 2021. So we bought one in 1999, $147,574 is what it cost. We bought a replacement in 2021, cost $627,000. So that's a 6.8% increase per year, compounded. Over that same period, the CPI for the Northeast, less food and energy, went up by 2.1% per year. So the real and quality cost increase on top of that is 4.6. For the other big piece of apparatus that we replaced, the tanker in 2015, which was a 1994 tanker replaced in 2015, a much smaller real and quality cost increase. There's significant unknowns here. I would be very comfortable if we had like 10 or 12 examples, which would have to come from, towns around here that have purchased large apparatus in the past 2, 3, 4 years. What were their cost increases?
What is the cost increase of that number that's in the FTP at the moment?
So I'm using 4%. So right now in fire equipment, it's showing 4%. And that's, no other fund is using a real and quality increase as high as that, except for land acquisition. land prices also go up high,
But
fast.
we're not buying. we're not buying land.
There's no land purchase plan, so that number's not even really coming into play. And it does make a significant difference. If this was only 3%, then you need to put in 269,000. If it was 2%,
Oh,
This is wrong.
wrong cell.
Control Z, undo.
sorry. Yeah. If it was 2%, 237. If it was 1%, 206. If there's no real and quality cost increase, then you're almost down to what was put in last year.
Well, not really, we put in that, what,
175.
Well, 175, so you're down to 170, about 177. But that is.
We're probably kidding ourselves, right?
Oh, absolutely. And this is we've been here before. The CIP in the past did not account for inflation.
We were about 400
it did
grand
not-
short on one
and-
fire truck.
And we came up short on buying a fire truck and
Yep.
couldn't buy it that year.
Say, John,
Yeah.
would you mind putting that cell back to 4 and then
Sure.
going to the cost increase example tab?
Okay.
I just want to see if I understand the philosophy of column G, is that if we're talking about items that they have a real quality increase versus those that have decreases, that given the option, the ones with the higher percentage, we should be buying those as soon as we can in order to avoid the real and quality increase as opposed to the ones that have a decrease, in which case we should put those off as long as we can.
Because the quality increase
Um,
keeps going.
I don't think that's universally true. If you know, when, the reason this is a 20-year plan is because we were planning to replace fire apparatus, the big trucks, every 20 years. So if one was just replaced last year, it would be on the plan for 20 years from now. So you certainly wouldn't say, well, instead of waiting 20 years, we should
We should-
replace it next year.
Right, but I mean, like, when it gets into that range, right?
Correct.
Where it's like, should we replace this or should we try and, tough it out for another year or 2 years or 3 years? That in reality, we should probably sell it for as much as we can get for it and then buy the new piece of equipment as opposed to waiting it out for 3 years.
That assumes that John's numbers are,
Um,
that they're going to, well, it assumes that those numbers are going to happen again.
No, because I think you have to take the longer term, what does it cost you over the long run, decade after decade? So if you replace a fire truck at 10 years instead of 20, you now got another fire truck that instead of being 30 years away is now only 20 years away. Everything gets moved in. So,
But
He's
it's-
just
so if I'm
talking
not
about
right,
the
then
end.
what's the
What I
real
think-
lesson of this column other than it's an interesting statistic?
the lesson of this column is that in order to get to that future time and have enough money, you need to expect that nominal cost will increase at this rate.
That's just
That
an
it's-
example
that
of
it's
how
not-
it increased with the
That
last.
it's not gonna
years.
simply increase at the rate of inflation. There are some things that go up faster than inflation, some things that might go up slower than inflation. Computer equipment, if you don't have to keep up with the performance increases that software demands, computers get cheaper every year. I've worked on projects where we had to put in, what do we think that the workstation is gonna cost 3 years from now when we buy it? And when we get to that time, we find out, we can buy a workstation that does everything we need for 15,000 instead of 25,000.
I see where Eric's coming from. These numbers are just an attempt to try and capture what we think the increase in price is going to be based on what it was on the last two trucks we bought.
Yes, so it's, when we look at,
So just to be prepared.
when we look at the $800,000 estimate for that truck, which was a professional estimate in 2021, and we're planning on buying that truck in 2027, how much money do we have to have in 2027 to pay for it? In 2027 dollars?
And I don't know how good of a correlation this is, but the gentleman from McGregor was in the other day talking about the price of ambulances. And he said the last ambulance they bought was in the 100,000 range, and the next one will be 350. So
Yeah.
this kind of equipment is going out much faster than inflation, which is
Yeah.
really what that schedule says. That if you just look at the rate of inflation, you're probably not gonna have enough money.
The other thing you also have to consider is in what enhancements.
Right.
Correct, that's the quality.
That is
Yeah.
quality increase.
A very big part of that is quality. Every piece of fire apparatus they buy does a whole lot more than the old one. And it has a lot of safety features that keep firefighters safer, and it has a lot of features that make them more efficient, meaning they get fires put out faster, they get people out of buildings faster, and so forth. And,
And
you
this
know,
is,
just go back and look at when our first firehouse was built. And there's a picture in the annual report back in 1950 or 51,
50, yeah.
which has the town's fire trucks out front of the firehouse, and the town was proud of it. Well, if
They
we
have
buy
horses attached to them?
No, they were real trucks.
Our first fire truck was owned by a private individual, and I don't know who pissed him off, but somebody pissed him off and says, okay, if you're not gonna be nice to me, I'm gonna take my fire truck and go home. And he actually took his fire truck and went home.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So my point with this whole one, I started this with John before we started this evening, is that schedule, if you go back to the summary schedule, John.
Yep.
This is the one of the, I think what this committee did last time was we recommended additions to the trust funds that were fairly consistent with what the FTP calculated. And then kind of put it back on the select board to make their decisions how close they wanted to go.
Yes, it was changed at, when the select board was deliberating.
So when you said 175 for
Fire
fiscal
equipment.
year 2025 on fire equipment, the 302 is ultimately what you would have to plan for to stay on track with the original planning tool.
Correct.
Correct. So last year, the planning tool, if I remember the number correctly, the planning tool said something around 275 or
Yeah, something like
250, 275. And the ABC, I believe, recommended that number. But then when the select board was deliberating, a member of the audience got up and said that was too much, and that didn't think that the town would vote for a number that high, and it was reduced to the 175. Now, fire equipment is one of the funds that has been well supported by the voters. That's something you should probably look at, if you don't. And
Now, the capital reserve fund for
Before
the
you
library.
move away from that, sorry, before you move away from that tab,
yes,
the increase from fiscal year 2025 to the calculated 2026, that's an increase of 57%.
That's because the 175 from last year was a plug.
there's three things that should jump out at you as big concerns here. The fire equipment is one, the library is another one, and then the third one is town buildings. In town buildings,
That's a
right now it's showing only $17,000. And that's because, right now, the only things that are being funded from the fund in this spreadsheet are those things that the Public Works Director has inputs for. So that's replacing roofs and heating systems and so forth. It doesn't have anything for an office building. There's no funding plan for rehab the town hall, no parking, no driveway, no septic system, etc.
Also, the
Does
highway
that answer your
department road and
question?
bridge goes from 90 to 210.
Yeah, yes. Steve's estimate of the cost of the town's share for rebuilding bridges is just, the last time he had a number put in, it was, I believe it was 300,000. It's now 500,000 per bridge. And so that's way up. And there's more to it than just that. The other part of it is the town has to pay for the bridge construction up front. And then the town gets reimbursed 80% from the state. So how do you pay for a $2.5 million bridge up front? Where's that money come from? I mean, that's select board, treasurer, decide, ABC. So right now, what's in roads and bridges is just that $500,000 for each bridge. The other thing is, there's a big unknown on the schedule, of course. Because sometimes the state decides, we got some money for doing a bridge.
Or we get no money for doing a bridge.
Or you thought something was gonna be done and there's no money.
So the 2025 numbers, Eric, are plugs.
Well, not all of them, but,
Or plugs.
Sorry,
For fire, library, and town buildings, they are.
They are.
overrides.
Yeah.
Now, last year, the library, I don't believe that we proposed an addition to the reserve funds last year. I
Correct.
think the library did one through petition.
No, there was a warrant article to raise $200,000 from taxes. And that was done.
But what, that was a
That was-
petition, wasn't it?
No,
No, that was,
No.
okay.
that was
And-
voted 2-1.
Correct, and that was approved by the voters. And so that was available this year and it has been spent.
What does the $354.88 for the library pay for this time?
Okay, so library, I told you last time, I didn't hear from them. Andy was gonna talk to them. Again, no input. So they have two funds. The oldest one is this Library Capital Reserve Fund, and that's for any capital improvements to the library. And the voters had approved $30,000 and $100,000 to come out of that. And last year, the last of that money was spent, $74,000. So the things that were listed last year were purchased and paid for. So those, I took those out. And then library building, I didn't touch most of what's here. So if it's listed like this item with a 2024 date, it's not being counted, because this spreadsheet doesn't count anything that's in the past.
So where's the 300 and
So
whatever?
it's coming from,
Oh,
I'm sorry, I should be looking at this column over here. So
10 is
it's
what-
coming from these exterior improvements, interior remodeling of non-schoolhouse portion, but they already did that.
that's, I was gonna say, that's done.
And library accessibility improvements, the building addition, 600,000, outdoor programming space, the solar installation. They did have roof replacement and solar installation at $40,000, but the town had to pay to have the roof replaced, and the town paid $19,580. So I just took that $19,580, subtracted it from the $40,000 and said, well, that must be the solar installation. So I made that change. $20,000 for parking lot improvement, $100,000 out in 2030 for energy efficiency improvements, And then this item got added from the Public Works Director. The roof was replaced paid for by the town, didn't come out of this fund, it came out of town buildings for 19,580. And his assessment is we should put it in for a replacement in 2054. So that's not being counted here yet, because
So
2050,
you still haven't heard from them?
no. I haven't heard from them.
Would you mind going back to the previous tab, please?
Library,
No, it was the, sorry, it was the
quick
Quick
view,
view?
Yeah.
summary,
just quick view.
yes.
Yep.
So are we talking about money that is already in the trust funds that's going to come out to pay for things? Or are we talking
No.
about money that the town needs to put into the trust
To
fund?
put into the fund.
For 2026.
So if you look at, we were talking about fire equipment.
So,
Fire equipment had 478,000 on the 30th of September in the fund. And 175,000 was added. So this is already counting with that money in the fund and the things that you plan to spend, how much more do you have to add to the fund?
so the 478,252 includes the 175,000?
No.
No.
The 478 is what was there on the 30th of
Let's
September.
see, okay.
And normally, the 175 would have been put in long before that, but this year it wasn't put in until the 4th of October.
So when we say that the 2025 numbers are plugs, why are they plugs?
What I mean is, every year on the warrant article, we request from the voters amounts to put in these funds. And those are the amounts that we requested that the voters voted on from the deposits to the trust funds for last year. ABC made a recommendation to the select board last year of numbers that were fairly close to what came from the FTP. For example, the fire equipment, say we recommended 300,000. The select board opted to reduce that to 175,000 for fiscal conservative reasons. That's why I mean it's a plug. It doesn't, it's a number that was not arrived at from the FTP and is not based on the recommendation that we as the ABC made.
So
In the
that
spreadsheet.
2025 column is actual money that went from the
Actual.
town
Yes.
into the trust funds,
Yes.
but it
Correct.
does not represent what we recommended.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay,
And what needs
that's
to
what
be
you're
in
calling-
there.
What
okay.
needs to be in there based on.
To
All
make
right.
it,
So
You know,
here,
so it's-
here in the spreadsheet, right up here, there's a place to put in deposit overrides. So it calculates you need to put in 302,000, but maybe you decide you're only gonna put in 175, yeah. I don't know.
Three zeros.
that's why I say the
175,
issue is, we keep putting in less and less and less. We're not going to
And
be
it
able to
says-
meet our obligation
it
of
says-
buying that thing. when
Right.
it's-
correct.
And
If
it's
you
a-
put in 175 instead of 302, then next year, you gotta put in 434.
And it's a matter of time before everything breaks and has to be
Yeah, it
replaced.
just
so we
won't
don't have
catch up.
money to
Yeah.
replace it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the responsible way of doing this is if, get on my soapbox here, responsible way of doing this is, if you look at these numbers and say, you know, this doesn't fit in our pocketbook, town can't afford this. So instead of 302,000, we think we can, if you say we think we can only afford 175, then you should go and make changes here so that this number comes out to something like 175. You should say, well, we're not
Extend
gonna buy,
it, or whatever, extend it out, or,
move it out.
yeah.
Maybe we end up, instead of replacing fire trucks, well, the goal was 20 years. You can see this is a 2005 to be replaced in 2027, so that's 2022, in 22 years.
25
Maybe you
years,
make it 25 years, maybe it ends up being 30 years.
to be
Or
realistic.
maybe you say, it would be nice to have fire trucks with those features, but the town of Lee can't afford them.
So change 2027 to 2030. Yeah, take that out, or take the 175 out.
Okay.
Yeah, and then change, just to show them how things change, and it might not change.
Okay, so to tell where it's gonna change, you can see this is 302, until you get, or through 2027,
Mm.
and then it comes down to 282, and then stays at 282 for a long time. So if we push this out to 2030, that 302 comes down to
Doesn't change it very much, does
293.
it?
Change it $9,000-$10,000.
Yeah. So if you could somehow decide, we can't afford a nominal 2021 $800,000 fire truck, we can only afford a $600,000 fire truck. And again, I'm doing this just to show you how the numbers work, not recommending that you should decide on cheaper fire trucks, or fire trucks with less
The other thing that we've done,
capacity.
and we had a conversation with Madbury Select people, because one of the things we were exploring is in terms of combining their fire department with ours, and also their police department with ours, and our highway department with theirs. Initial responses were they were interested, and subsequent to that, they've kind of not got back to us. Because one of the ideas was, well, we're buying all this expensive equipment, they're buying expensive equipment, and their fire chief and their police chief and their highway person are no longer be there. Two of them are retiring, one of them they hire out. So that's something we explored, but they're not interested, so.
Wait,
Well,
so
maybe
did
you
they-
need to revisit it.
Did they say they weren't interested, or they just stopped talking to us?
They stopped responding to Andy's inquiries. The other thing we do know, I'm gonna get in trouble, but their town administrator, if you will, isn't very game on interested in the idea, so I'm not sure if he's stopping the conversation or, well, I don't know. So Janet Wall was the selectman when we started it. She was very interested because there's no way they can continue to do what they're doing. They just can't afford it. But the current selectman, they're not, I guess, is interested.
And it
The
would
two,
be
the two that we had
beneficial.
conversation with her were interested. They wanted to explore it, but
Something you should be looking at when you're thinking about, what is the town's, appetite's not a good word, willingness to support different expenditures. This is the vote tally from last year, from March. And this is sorted by percent yes. So highway equipment, roads and bridges. Town building is way up, but town building came from fund balance. Ponds and cisterns, fire equipment. You see, these are up at 63s and even up into 70%. And other ones, like the operating budget, it passed with just 51%. Revaluation, 51%. People think that if you don't pay for revaluation, then it won't happen.
that's not how it works.
Cemetery fencing, 52%. Solar energy, 59, almost 60%. So this tells you, and I've tracked this every year, what the voters' priorities are. What do a lot of people support, and what do not very many people support? So
So
if you-
fire is way up there, so
fire has
that's why they would support a,
Fire has
The
always
equipment.
been up there, and highway equipment has been up there. In the past, I thought
People
highway
want
equipment
you
was
to
up
be-
there because we had
see,
highway, was there indisposition?
Road agent?
Road agent.
Road agent, who was very, very well liked in town. But I think there's a lot of support for good roads.
Yep.
And support for safe bridges, and support for fire equipment that saves people's lives. And
especially if you've had a fire, you realize
Yeah.
Do we have
the importance
any
of it.
growth numbers? Is the growth of the town in terms of taxable increased properties or increased properties, is this like just out there and would be a windfall? Or is that also calculated using the growth rate of the town?
This is not calculating out to the point of telling you what the tax rate would be. So there's no input here for what is the tax base and what does this provide as a resulting tax rate.
Scott has some numbers for those.
Well, I didn't mean numbers necessarily, it's sort of a vague percentage of, you know, if we're anticipating 2 developments of 50 homes each,
That's
you know,
usually,
being built, then.
that's usually what we get from Karen, but Karen was injured, so. But usually it's like $5 to $6 million, but it depends.
Yeah,
There's
Hasn't
been,
been a lot,
was it
hasn't
Bryson Lane, that went in. So, but the thing is, the stuff we're gonna get on Thursday will tell you what the evaluation has gone up by. So that's something I put into my form, my little summary thing. So it kinda like sees, you know, what the effect that is.
better how it all works together, thank you.
Yeah. So it is 7:45.
Yeah.
We should get on to the budget.
And, well, I think at some point, if you go back to the
So-
quick view, we kind of need to go through each one of these and see where people stand. Because some of these are relatively easy, at least for me. Like the internal service fund, 2163, maybe we'll put in another 20,000, maybe 22. Usually we round it off. And some of these other ones are gonna be relatively easy. The 4 we've kind of talked about the most are gonna be the sticking points, I think. But I can tell you, just from a selectman's point of view, $1.1 million going in trust funds is not gonna fly for us. I'm pretty sure that's
I
not gonna
don't
fly.
think that's gonna work.
So I think that's gonna be an issue.
Now, John, did you change everything back, cause the library, that number wasn't that like 300 grand? For fire.
So, fire equipment, we got
Oh,
4%.
You changed that to 6.
Um,
Look at the end.
We need
Yeah, it
to
was 8.
do that.
Yeah, that needs to be
In
8, yeah.
2020.
We do that,
Yeah.
and now we're back. So what Scott is suggesting is, here's accrued benefits, it says 21,000. Andy was asked, and if there was enough money to cover what he thought was coming up this year, he said there was, so what Scott is suggesting is that you just put an override and say,
Yeah,
we'll round that off to,
We just have to be aware that not this coming fiscal year, but the one after that, the chief is most likely gonna be retiring. And you saw on the liability
Which
sheet,
chief?
police.
I thought he was retiring.
He's retiring
He's,
the end of this year.
he,
Has that changed?
keep up with the program here, you know, you're in touch with the grapevine, most likely he's not.
Where does that leave us for a town clerk?
Interested?
So he's not retiring now.
No, he's not retiring.
Kind of the general consensus, he's supposed to be thinking about it, but that's where he's leaning.
That
He'll
creates
stay,
other
he'll
issues.
stay another year.
Yes, so, but yes, now that gives us a point of town clerk tax collector. There is a
Poor
possibility,
Linda.
Marion Kelsey's granddaughter is assisting. Her issue is she has to live in town.
She doesn't live in town.
She does live in town. Unfortunately, she lives with her mother, her brother, and her grandmother, and that's getting old. But, you know, is there any place to rent and live? No,
Well,
that's the problem, so,
Well, let's go back to our quick view and
yes.
get through this so we can get onto the budget.
so this just shows you what's there. Changes are not made on this page.
Yeah.
So changes are made on each of the worksheets for the fund. So
You
that's
don't
how
have, you don't have to
highlight
change
this.
the schedule tonight as much as we just need to get some preliminary
So-
discussion stuff.
Well, the thing is, this is what we're thinking about. If it's 20,000, let's
Okay.
leave that there and move on. The other thing is the liability, the total liability, if everybody left the town, is almost $200,000.
Okay.
Is everybody gonna leave? No. But we need to be sure that we have enough money for these people that have a lot of accrued benefits that we have to pay out when they leave. And the thing is, you know, just because somebody retires, that's a big chunk, but people come and go in departments, especially the
Yeah.
police department, so.
So this is showing that if it's the average amount, 17,000, you would end the year with almost 32,000 still left in the fund.
Yeah.
So you could look at those two numbers and say, are those two numbers added together big enough to
Yeah.
cover you what you think is the worst case
And the thing is, if
Or
people
you
leave and
change
there's
the
not
number
enough
over
money in the
here.
fund, the town has to still pay for
Pay
it.
for it anyway.
So,
Okay.
One thing you could do, I think what Scott is suggesting, is that you go through this quickly and say, for each of these, the ones that are easy, put in
Yeah,
what you think
it's-
is the override,
yep,
and then see where you are. Cause some of them are, like that one is pretty easy. Cemetery fence.
I think we had decided 25 anyway, hadn't we?
25,000 was put in. I mentioned that there's significant uncertainty in these numbers, particularly this first one, the Lee Hill Cemetery fence, because they haven't been able to get any quotes that are for anything like the kind of fence that they want. They ask for it and they get quotes for something completely different. But even if that was 90,000, you'd have to go all the way up to 90,000, you're still not quite to the 25. But these are the inputs that the
and then,
cemetery trustees gave me.
and the Lee Hill Cemetery fence, they already have fence on part of it though. So this is just not the
this-
whole thing.
This is the front, to replace the front,
Okay.
which is the
So
historic.
they've got the other part already done, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the other three sides are done,
They got the black fence.
but it's the historic along Mass Road.
Yep.
And they want historic looking and open like that, so that if a snowplow pushes snow back, it doesn't cave in the solid,
Yep.
like picket fence.
Yep, okay.
And they haven't been able to get any quotes on that type of fencing. What's there is the historic fencing.
What do you wanna do with that one, Scott? I think we kinda told Peter we were gonna leave him at 25, hadn't we?
If that's what he needs, but this is saying he only needs 13. So-
Well, that's if any of those numbers are close.
Well, the thing is until he gets real numbers, because this is plain guess.
Those are plain guesses. After they gave me those numbers, I sent this back to them, telling them that, you know, it now calculates you only need 13,161, and even if this was 90,000, this doesn't, you know, only gets to 24.
What did they say?
I haven't heard that they want to change anything.
Mhm.
This is in 2028. The Clay Lane, which is the other big one, is way out. They need a cemetery there before they put a fence around it.
Well, there's some graves there already, yeah, come on.
And he actually brought up, they thought that this fund could be used for some of the costs of establishing the cemetery, which is some additional clearing of trees and stumping, and surveying that was needed.
That's
And I had
2035, that's
And I
not,
had, yeah, I had to point out that, no, this fund is specifically for fencing, that's the only thing it says, you can't use it for anything else. So if you wanna use it for
So
something
you
else,
wanna put 13 in there and move
I
on?
was thinking maybe we put 15,
15, it's a nice round number.
because the thing is also, we can come back to any of this at any time, so it's just like kind of getting a
Yeah,
gauge.
just get it in there and then we can move along.
so
This is
Easy.
Tom
Let's go back to
yelling
the
at
quick-
you all.
Yeah, let's go back to the
ones.
easy ones first.
Yeah.
if you want, we can just go through this item by item, put in some numbers, or just
Okay.
skip over some you don't wanna do. And if you want, I can come back at your next meeting after you've had
Right.
time to think.
Let's just stick them in there for now.
Yeah.
All right,
So, do you wanna just skip fire equipment for now?
my issue that I have is in terms of, I would rather have them get to replace engine 2. What is the current one? Because the last estimate was from 2021, like
Yes.
3 years ago. Has it actually gone up that much, you know?
This is,
Because if I'm gonna buy a fire engine for $1.2 million, it better be doing everything, toasting bread,
This-
you know, making coffee and everything, but
This is saying that today's cost, fiscal year 2025's
So-
cost is
I would
Just
go
over
back
$1
to the
million.
fire chief and say, hey, okay, that quote you got in 2021, that
Yes.
same truck, how much is it now? Is
This-
it 1,078,000 or is it 860,000?
This engine 2 is also supposed to have all the features of Rescue 1, and they will no longer have a Rescue 1
They'd be
vehicle.
combined.
Yeah.
So they'll be combined, so this is some additional features into engine two.
And
I
I
do
think
think it's a good idea to ask for,
updated,
let's spec it out now and see
Clarification.
how much it's
Yes.
gone up.
Okay.
So keep
Okay.
that and ask Scott.
because I'm supportive of the fire department getting what they need, but the thing is, that also has to be tempered with what else does the town need? Not just fire equipment, you know,
No,
so,
and if they don't need it, then good.
yeah, well, the
Just
thing is,
ask them.
it'd give us a more accurate number,
So
so.
Kobe or Scott, are you going to do the asking, or if you want, tell me to do it and I will talk to Scott in a minute?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, having a conversation with Nemeth and say, can you give us an updated estimate on line number 2?
Yeah.
And I think it would be most telling if it comes in at 1.78, 1.08, what, $1.078 million, great. Well, not great, but if it comes in at, $920,000, that kind of tells us we're off a little bit.
Yeah.
But then it will give us a better estimation in
Correct.
terms of what the cost will be in 2027.
Correct. One of the things you should be looking at is, that estimate is 4 years old,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the expense is just 2 years away.
right.
So you should not be relying on a 4-year-old estimate, which was, not even a perfect quote.
Yeah.
It's just a professional estimate, when the purchase is so big and so close.
And would
Okay.
Rescue One be sold and offset with whatever, that could
Well,
be?
they would definitely trade in engine 2, they would get
Yeah.
something.
Those, when I looked at those individual cost increases, those were the costs after trade-ins. When they've negotiated new
We're gonna have
prices.
to go into all these details another time. We need to move
Yes.
we
on.
need
Yeah.
to-
I'm sorry,
we need
I'm
to
just
move
like,
on. I
yeah,
know, we need to go
yeah,
back to the
this is,
budget.
we're going into detail on every
Right.
single one of these things. We gotta put in what we think tonight and move along.
I agree. Highway equipment, put in 50,000 last year, this is now saying 57. It previously said about 50, but the
What's driving this one?
brush
loader?
chipper, the brush
Brush
chipper
chippers?
was previously a $15,000
Oh.
item, and now it's a
costing for
$66,000 item.
Let's put in 50 and move on to the next one,
Yeah.
And, okay,
just for tonight.
sure. And the next one,
Land acquisition,
you don't
zero.
have to do anything,
We
it
don't have
just
to
is a
do anything for
placeholder, don't
library.
need anything. They didn't ask for
Library,
anything.
zero, I put in that one at 0, library building.
It's already a 0.
No, I meant which is the one that's at 358, that
This
one.
So, oops. 0.
Uh-oh.
Well, I mean, that's. Don't worry, it's fine. We don't write checks and let it go negative, so. Ponds and cisterns, 30,000 went in, is now saying 24.
What's driving this?
The
2020?
whole list. It's the whole thing.
So, center of town 2, number 2, is not gonna happen, because that should be tied to the town center renovation. So I don't see that occurring in 2026,
So,
because they're not gonna put a cistern there just to
correct.
dig it up or move it whenever. I think that needs to go out a little bit.
30.
Yeah,
2030?
yeah.
Is the rate we're going.
That didn't change.
Moving things here is gonna have almost no effect.
Right,
And the reason is, we have a real quality cost increase of 1% on top of future expectations of 2% inflation. And that is, combined is 3.02%.
So
and an
25,000.
expectation of 3%.
25,000.
Let's go, yeah.
Yep.
next, reevaluation.
Recreation's not looking for
And
anything.
that's it, our road building.
Oh, yeah.
No, there's several more. So this is way up because of these $500,000 bridge replacement costs.
Well, there's no way we're gonna do all of those in, what, 2030? Two of them? There's no way we can afford that.
27, 30,
You can do one a year maybe, but,
right.
because that's 20%, right? So that's $2.5 million.
This is what Steve believes the town cost would be.
Yeah, so there's no way we can afford $5 million in 1 year. There's no way we can even float that.
So I drive over the Cartland Road Bridge all the time, so let's keep that one.
You're being recorded, Eric, so you.
I stand by my statement.
For tonight, let's put $100,000 in it. So we can get back to the rest of the budget, now that I know that Tom's not leaving.
So 35 was put in.
Yeah, it's put in 35.
Nice to see that you've got your mouse to work, or a new mouse. That's good.
This is not the town's mouse. It's
Oh, good.
Personal.
That's good.
Brought his own mouse.
So,
I don't know, let's skip that one, there's no way we can get anywhere with that one tonight.
okay,
Transfer station. 90.
90,
and that's the last one.
Okay, can we go back to quick, whatever it is?
Quick.
View. I like quick view. So fire equipment and town buildings
Yeah.
are the kind of ones we count on.
yep,
Okay.
We're
So,
gonna have to tweak.
with the overrides that you put in, this is the fiscal year 2026 with overrides, 664.
okay.
Because there's some odd numbers that you didn't put in an override for.
No, the fire equipment, yeah. So-
Fire equipment and town buildings.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So,
Good.
Can you send us this?
Yes.
So we can, I don't necessarily need the whole thing, but just that page.
I can send you the whole thing, or I can send
Whatever.
you, I can
I'm
send you
just
this.
looking for this, but.
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. Very helpful, John.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
And the other thing on my to-do list is see the fire chief about getting updated prices.
If you could, please. Yes. You can make a request.
Okay.
If you want to, you can say, requested by the ABC.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do, because it's not me.
Yeah,
That's why I asked for.
well, it's not coming from the selectmen either, it's coming from the ABC. So
Right,
we're allowed
it's-
to ask department heads for additional information, so. Oh. 8 o'clock, Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to go down through all these now?
Yep,
All
At
right,
least start.
all right.
we usually get about halfway through.
Yeah.
Are you gonna notate on these?
Yeah, I'm gonna, yeah, so,
So if you do that, I'll take a picture of yours rather than
Right.
handwriting everything like that.
Typically, we each have one of those, so then we can all go.
well, the other thing I
through
can
them,
do is, this is a spreadsheet, so when I go back, I can just fill in what we talked about and send it all
And
to
then
you.
you'll send it, yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
then
it's
we
just a
can,
spreadsheet.
and then we can just print it out or
Yeah.
whatever.
Print it
So we
out,
have
or
it.
you can also take it and tweak whatever you want to tweak.
The version that we got from Andy, you couldn't,
Yeah, this is the version from Andy.
you can't tweak it.
Yeah, you can. I tweaked it
Oh,
already.
you can?
Yeah.
Oh, I
It's
thought,
a spreadsheet.
but I know, I thought it was locked. Okay.
He gave
I
us a
think his
copy to
version was
manipulate.
locked.
But he
But
said that
that's
we
all
could
right.
make changes,
Oh,
let me
okay.
just double
Yeah.
check because,
Yeah, because it's got the formulas and everything in it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but yeah,
I took a quick peek at it this morning. I thought I couldn't-
so, town administrator's salary at 92.5.
How much did his budget change as a whole?
3,000, a little bit less. $2,400. Went up.
What was his salary?
But that's, the whole, his whole budget only changed $2,400.
Yeah, 24, no, 24, 34, no.
I'd be
Yeah,
tempted just-
$3,400,
I would
sorry.
be tempted just to let it go.
He will negotiate his salary as a higher level, but he put in an increase for the assistant town administrator, put in an increase for himself too of $700. Put an increase for her for $2,100. Overtime stayed the same at $5,000. Select board salary is $7,500. Trustees of the trust funds, $300, same as before. Town report went up $500, so it's now $3,500. Conferences, $300. Postage, he zeroed out, because that comes from someplace else. And then supplies went up $100 to $400. We good with all those?
Yep.
Elections and registrations. I think there's one less election. Yeah, one, I think that's what he said, one less. So it went from $22,016 to $18,313.
That's, that is,
Yes, wow. For another 3 months.
I mean,
She's-
that's the town clerk's budget.
Yes.
Yes. She's, just to let you know, whoever gets elected, she's willing to stay on for another, however months is needed. She's also expressed an interest to stay on in case we need her, which she's been very good about that.
How did she react when she found out that,
I don't know if she knows that yet.
She does now.
He hasn't officially told us
She watches.
that he's leaving,
who's leaving?
Chief Johnsfield. He
A
gave
little
us-
bit confused about the plan
Yeah,
here,
I-
right?
I-
Because if he hangs on at police chief for another
2 years.
year or 2 or 3 or whatever, right? It's not like we can't, or, we have to elect somebody to that job, but once we elect that person, there's no, they're in there, they don't, they're gonna keep running, right? But they don't have to defer to him. So,
Right.
No, the position is 3 years.
Hopefully we get them trained and keep them.
So, yep. So, yeah, if they want
Thank
one
you,
after
John.
the 3 years, they can run again, or they can say, no, I'm not doing it again. So, which is unfortunate, because that particular position, there's a lot of training that goes involved in that particular position. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Mr. John. Say hello to your wife.
Yep.
So, yeah, and we've had people that were elected to the position, stayed there for a few months and then left because they didn't like it, which leaves the town in kind of a lurch. The thing is, that's why it's important to have a deputy that's trained. So I don't know who's gonna run if he doesn't, which sounds like he's not going to. So who will run? Mary Kelsey's daughter's working there, she's kind of interested, but she's not trained. She's been assistant.
Granddaughter, right?
Granddaughter.
Okay.
So, don't know.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
All
Okay,
right.
the election budget looks good.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll move it over. Town clerk tax collector,
That budget's predicated upon the plan that we had. Because it goes up 50 grand because,
she's put in extra money for the deputy's
Herself.
wages to cover her,
yep,
to help out, so it's up. $44,000.
You have to
we
keep
talked
it.
about this.
You have
really
to keep it where it is.
We've gotta keep it
because-
where it is,
yeah.
there's nothing we can do.
You don't know.
Yep. So I'll move that over. Financial administration, he's put in a slight increase for the bookkeeper. Other than that, changes, contractor services for MRI, which is the accounting software, went down 5,000. Audit went up by 3. We go out to bid for this next one, so he's anticipating an increase. What else is a big change? That's about the
That's about
changes.
it.
So
It's not
their
much
budget
change.
is going down $6,000,
Yeah,
so we good with that?
yeah.
Assessing, it's a contract.
Yeah.
I don't think it's up for renewal this next year.
Yep.
So it went down $1,200.
Yeah.
Happy with that.
Yeah,
Don't have a choice anyway.
Legal expense, the same as last year,
yeah.
15.
See,
Personnel, this is what's
this is-
usually the killer.
This is one of the killers, yeah.
He did get information and he's reduced it here. The maximum increase was double digits, now it's like 7% or something.
For the healthcare?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still up by $52,000, so
Now, is that because of the increase, or is that there's a new police officer in there too, right?
they've already carried, well, it's on, should be on your sheet. But yeah,
I think it's one more.
I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, I think it's both of them.
Yeah, so, bio is up $1,000, dental insurance up
Where is this? Not finding it.
$2,000.
Too far?
Yeah, too far.
Social
Personnel.
Security's up because salaries are up. Let's see what else. Retirement, all the retirements are up. Workers' compensation is up $6,000.
Mm.
So
That's usually a
total budget's
formula,
up
too.
79,000.
Most of it's health insurance. right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You okay with that?
Kinda have to be.
Planning and zoning. God bless Karen. Karen's budget is up $300. If you can't live with that,
$300, wow.
Is that in here?
Okay,
No, keep going down.
Keep
So
going
wait a minute, go back.
government buildings. Government buildings
Oh,
is
you're down here. That's right.
down,
I can't
oh,
move this.
75,
I can't move it around.
like $180 is down.
What was between, so we wanna go back up to P
sounds
and Z?
good.
Yeah,
Okay with that?
there's planning and zoning, okay, we're done with that one. Okay.
Cemetery's the same as last year.
Yep.
And then I think cemeteries, there's one more before cemetery.
Property liability is up. It's up about $7,500. Yeah,
Government
$7,500 about.
alone, and then cemeteries really the ones. we're doing.
Property liability, what is that covering?
That covers the buildings and the equipment that the town owns. So
And-
part of that increase is the brand new dump trucks we got. It's part of it.
Oh,
We got those
on
two brand-
the liability of the equipment, or the,
Yeah, so if it gets damaged or.
Vehicles and everything?
Yeah. We got 2 new trucks at $360,000.
why is that liability? That's not liability.
Yeah.
We're
It's
talking
the car
about,
insur-
if
the
they
truck-
get damaged, it's,
Yeah, that's part, that's what it's in there. So yeah,
So,
It's everything,
okay,
they call it property liability, but it's everything.
car insurance.
It's not like at home, it's like, on your car, you got comprehensive, you got collision.
right,
That's all included.
and liability, yeah.
Yeah. So it covers, if a cruiser gets damaged, it covers that.
Okay. It's typically not liability, but
That's what the state,
that's what they say.
so.
And that's we can't really
But
change
liability
that.
is if someone else gets injured as a result of whatever
Yep.
the equipment,
Yep.
It's not,
Okay, the commissions,
Yep. They're down
They're down.
$550. $50 reduction in lead gritters to $450, and then $500 reduction in energy commission. We okay with that, I assume?
oh, the police,
Police chief,
okay. Part
so,
of the 110 was his,
his replacement.
yeah.
yes, so,
Has he given a
yes.
guesstimate on, did you say 2 more years or 1 more year?
I have to be
or-
careful because we had a conversation in non-public, so I have to be careful what I say, but he's expressed an interest in staying on. if that's gonna be the salary for the new chief, his thought process is, for that kind of extra money, I'll stay for another 2 years.
Oh, that's the thing we needed to know, that's the information, so.
So I'm probably in trouble, but whatever, so. But he's told that to me privately, so I guess I can kiss and tell, but
But I mean,
yes.
it would still cost us less.
Well, the thing is, you're gonna get the same chief,
Yeah,
and you're not taking the risk of hiring somebody else that you don't know. Hopefully, they're fine. But his thought process is, you know, if you're gonna pay this for the new person, I'll
Okay,
stay for that amount.
what is the difference between the 97.3 and the 110 in terms of
less.
percentage?
12,
Split the difference
1,000.
and call it a 2-year.
if that's what he
increase?
wants.
He wants 110.
No, I mean, if that's what he wants to do. Originally, he was like really, and we thought that he was ready to retire.
And in the
So I'm saying if
negotiation
it's up
process,
to
the hope would be
Tom.
that you wouldn't pay 110, that you would be able to come in closer to what he's earning. So what I'm thinking is like a percentage of that as opposed to 2 years at 110 might be a.
Right.
See, the other problem
But
is if we give him that kind of an increase, what do we do about the other guys?
Right.
Yes,
I wasn't
because,
even considering the money, I was considering the bigger picture of Tom being interested in retiring. He
Oh, I
sounded like he
know.
was very interested in retiring at the end of the year. And we didn't know if maybe he was, for him personally, like maybe he was ready to move on. So I don't know if, you know, I guess
We need some.
you gotta talk to him and, yeah, if that's what he wants to do, then.
Because if he's looking at this as an increase in his salary of that amount, where does that leave his guys?
Most of the
Yeah.
department and-
well, the other thing is, it's the equities between the other department heads too.
Yes,
'Cause
And
you've got-
then-
yeah.
the other
We
guys.
are gonna have to go through that again, and even if he does do that for 2 years, okay, now where are we at? And now we're gonna have to find a, you know, a chief.
But
I'm all for Tom staying, I'm just saying, these are the things you gotta
I know. but the-
consider.
Like he said, if you give him that kind of an increase, not only his guys, but what about the other department heads?
I think you just gotta talk it out with Tom and see if, you know, and see what's best for him and,
Because he's got some potential replacements in his staff at the
Right.
moment, and also he's got a potential replacement in a staff member that left to go to another department.
right,
So there is some possibilities, but the thing is, one of the things we told him is, when that position is available, we're going to do a regular search. It's not
put
going
it
to
out
be
there, yeah.
whoever.
Whether you choose one of them or not, you'll put out you'll do a regular search.
Have we treated the department heads equally every year?
Try to, but not necessarily successfully. The thing is, you've got
Like
a
a
town
uniform
administrator
increase?
earning 92 something, you've got a fire chief earning 90, almost 93. So those two people, and also your highway department person is, we haven't even got to him yet.
Cause he wore so many different hats. 'cause
Yeah,
he
he
asked
has
him
lots
to-
of hats, so
To do,
he's paying
5
almost
jobs.
14 plus, I don't know, where's the other one? Oh, 14 plus 81, so that's 95. So he's a little bit higher than, he's more like the police chief in terms of what we're paying him.
you're not comparing the jobs that he was doing, he was added.
But I don't think this is a discussion about performance. What we would do is simply have a negotiation power on whoever's doing the hiring of the police chief to max out at 110 as the baseline salary. That is not necessarily what's being offered. It's just what we would plan to
In
be
the
able to
budget.
accommodate.
That's what the chief thinks
Exactly.
it would cost to get somebody to replace him,
Okay,
so.
maybe.
I guess we're gonna have to leave the police budget
We can leave it,
for
you don't
next
have to
week.
leave.
Yeah.
Dispatch is the same as last year, you okay with that?
Yep.
Ambulance is down a little bit,
We'll take it.
yeah, you can't, for the service they provide. Fire department is up what is it, 45,000?
What was it?
45,000. It's gone from 846 to 891.
What was it?
The big jumps are 10,000 firefighter wages.
Was that a
5,000 in
position?
part-time firefighter wages. Overtime has gone from 27,250 up to 50,000.
I was a little confused by his explanation, because he said that he was fully staffed for the
Hmm.
first time
Yeah.
ever, and
We're doing-
then he said that.
He's already spent $46,000 this
He
year.
said that was because of people who are out.
Yeah,
Because there were people that were injured or sick or whatever,
Yeah,
so that's,
And they are likely to get hurt.
and they did have to, yeah.
because he said, but he
People
said
get
that
hurt and,
first time ever he was fully staffed, and then he said, oh, by the way, we've used up all the
Oh,
overtime.
so it's better.
yeah.
But isn't part of that increase also the STEP program that you
Yep.
are doing? So that's part of it.
Yeah,
So probably not unreasonable, actually.
well, that's mostly in the wages, the overtime is the
Right.
big jumper. But yeah, are we okay with the fire department request? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes?
I'm not crazy about budgeting all that overtime, because
Yeah.
who knows if they'll need it
Well,
again, but.
We can come back, we can leave that out. We can leave that out if you want.
No, that's okay, I can live with it, but I'm just,
Code enforcement, there's an increase that they put in for Bill. Go from 67.5 up to 72.8.
what did you tell the department heads in terms of budgeting salary increases?
We said inflation, and if you want something more than inflation, you have to justify it.
Do you know why they're asking for an increase for him?
Because he should be earning more, according to what Andy told us, I believe.
He's been underpaid for a while, I think. Yeah.
We okay with that?
Yep,
All right, EOC, same as last year.
and the same as the last 47 years.
Backside. Highway Department. $119,000 increase. 105 of it is in paving and asphalt.
We always wet,
Which we never know whether we're gonna be able to do it or not.
I think we've taken $100,000 out of the paving budget every year we've done this for the last few years.
Well, also depends in terms of what asphalt is going for too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And
I think our decrease has been-
Stephen has been trying to move it around and maybe extend it another year, but, so what happens is, now the road has deteriorated more, and now it's gonna take more to fix it, but that's what he's trying to do. Sort of manipulate it and,
Just as long as we do Cartland Road,
yeah,
so that,
there you go.
The bridge.
You got yours done.
just the bridge, that's the bridge, so we can let the rest of the road go
You
down.
did get your road done, right? Like,
Tamara?
or
No.
whatever.
Culverts remain the
Didn't
same.
they,
Dirt.
or what was the one you were,
Zero.
there was another one you were talking about, I guess.
The
They did
culverts
Fox
on here,
Garrison.
These are.
Oh, yes,
different
the other,
expenses
yes,
than
Fox
what's-
Harrison did
Okay.
get paved.
Okay.
That's nice. Has a low shoulder, there's signs. I don't know
They're
if you've
supposed to
seen
be-
them.
They're supposed to build that up.
Yeah.
Go back and put the stuff on the side.
Are we okay with highway, or do we need to leave that one the way it is?
It has to go. I mean, he's gonna tell us what he's gonna try to manipulate, right?
Thoughts?
I think when you get your numbers for next week,
Right.
and we decide what the tax increase is, then we'll come back and.
Okay, so how about if I move them over, but then we'll put a little asterisk next to the
Yeah.
paving?
Yeah, look at that one again.
All right, transfer station, it's up about $4,800, $4,700. It's all in, it's all in salaries.
Yep,
Which you have
You
to
okay?
do.
yep.
Oh, the other thing to be aware of in highway department, there's, one of the staff members is retiring. So being able to hire somebody to do what he does,
He
Pete,
does everything.
yeah, so. Are you gonna be able
How
to
do
get a
you
full-time
replace
mechanic
Pete?
for $66,000? Probably not.
What is, oh, is that what he's, 66?
65,716.
It's all heavy equipment and hydraulics kinds of stuff.
I don't think you're gonna
He
find
does
somebody
all
for
the
that.
repairs and everything on it.
All right, solid waste.
Plus he does tons of other stuff.
That didn't change as much as I would have thought.
Yeah, went up.
Now, he's leaving bulky waste at the same amount, is that reasonable?
No. The only thing, the rate, I gave him the rates in terms, because the rates changed January 1st. The only thing I can anticipate is that he's thinking tonnage is gonna go down.
So is Pete's retirement in there? That's part of the 4,800? That can't be.
No, he's got his position's at 65,716. That's
And
the
they're
same
thinking
position.
that they're gonna get another person at that rate. That's what he's saying?
Yeah, well, that's what he's implying, yeah.
Okay.
He has a little bit of float and other things, so if he needs to take money from something else, but I think he might be a little bit pressed to get somebody for that amount of money.
To,
How much
That
is the
replaces
bulky rate
Pete.
changing?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
It's probably 67, it went from 63 to 67, something like that,
that's 5%.
something like that. I gave him the numbers, he asked for them months ago.
Okay,
But we've got,
so he's,
rates out for the next 8 years, so he knows what he's gonna be spending. But I
the
think it's
budget's the
60,
same.
I think it's 67, it switches on January 1st. But the thing is, everybody else is in the 90s, high 80s and 90s now. So we're saving some money, so at some point, we're gonna get sticker shock, but. So, be okay with solid waste, it goes up 2,000? Yes. Health agencies, same as last year. I assume we're okay with that?
you know, they
Welfare,
save us so much more money than
yeah.
you're giving them anyway.
Welfare, they raised it,
Oh,
Whoa.
housing, yeah.
yeah, so it went from 16,840 to 70,100.
Well, that's because of the rent
Rental
assistance.
assistance.
Now, what is it, I wasn't quite sure what he was basing that 60 grand on.
Who's this?
Because he's already spent 19,000 so far.
I know, but it's a long ways from 19 to 60.
What is this?
Rent
This
assistance.
rental assistance, this is the one that jumped in welfare. He's basing it on percentages of what he's, seeing.
Because rents have gone up so much.
And the thing is, no matter what we budget,
There's nothing to rent
you
anyway,
have to
so.
pay whatever it is anyway, so. You okay with that? Or
Is he
we,
assuming all the same people are just not going to get new jobs, or?
he's basing it on percentages. I believe that's what he's doing, because the 19,363 is about a third of the year, so he's multiplying that by 3 to get the 60,000. I think that's what he's doing. But the thing is, rental assistance comes and goes, depends on how bad people are feeling it, so. And the thing is, if you live in Lee, there ain't too much out there that's cheap, so. But the thing is, that's something we might want to tweak after we look at everything else.
Yeah.
I'll star it, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Parks and Rec, same as last year.
Yeah, I guess we can handle it.
Library. Library is,
They had an increase, right?
We did.
yep, $8,000, or $7,200. No, what's it? Yeah, 7,200 about.
I had asked you when they were in, one of those questions that probably doesn't have an answer. When Haley showed us her stuff, they've got little buckets of money left over.
What kind of buckets of money?
She had, when
She was explaining it. It
She
was-
had
yeah.
several accounts with like 15 grand here, and, there's little buckets of money. And I don't know if that's stuff that we should expect them to be spending on this kind of thing.
I don't know. I don't remember any buckets of money.
This
They
whole
have
separate
the,
thing is,
they have the foundation money, which
No,
they
it's
haven't
not-
used any
it's
of
not
it
the
yet
foundation
against their, they've got their own reserve money.
There was one that was about.
That does go up and down or whatever.
Yeah,
depending
because
on-
it's this last number here, it's the money we give quarterly to the trustees. So they're asking for the same as last year, which is $50,800. So if they spend 48,000, that $2,000 gets
No,
dumped
that's
into their
true, yeah.
reserves.
Goes in, yeah.
That's the only bucket of money that I know,
That's the only one, okay,
that I
'cause they,
know of, other than the foundation, so
I think she
okay.
was talking about something else that, yeah,
I don't
maybe
remember
the
that.
foundation money or something.
I got the impression that it was money that was left over from the renovation.
Then it has to be used for the renovation.
Okay.
The 200,000 that was in the warrant this last March,
Mhm.
they've already spent 219. So,
Are they
Yes.
done for now?
oh,
That's it.
oh,
Time to
that's
go
it?
home.
Time to go, let's leave, hurry. You see your
I'll vote for
bedtime?
that.
We're almost there.
Yeah, they have to spend it on the renovation, because that's
No,
what
I
I
said they done.
yes and no.
They're not 100% done, are they?
There was some things that were done that weren't done properly, and Steve's fighting with them. One of them is they put in some sills, and they put in the sills, but the wood underneath is rotted, so the sill sits up here and there's rotted wood, so when you step on the sill, it bends down, and they're supposed to fix it.
Ugh.
Who's supposed to fix it?
The contractor's supposed to fix it, because Steve said it was improperly installed. And the contractor says, our person that did that installed it correctly. And it's like, well, no, because the wood underneath is all rotted out, you need to fix that.
It's already rotted, or they didn't
It was-
remove the rotted
They didn't
wood?
remove the rot.
Right, before they
Awesome.
put the new one on? It's like, okay.
But Steve's having conversations with them, so I don't think they're done,
Okay,
but they're close to being done.
okay,
Couple things on a punch list.
Yeah, I don't,
okay,
So what do you think? Are we good with the 8 grand?
yeah.
all right. Patriotic purposes, same as last
250?
year. Yes.
Yeah.
Heritage Commission is asking for no money. Nation's 250th is asking for 5,000? No, they asked for more than that. They asked for 15. He's got a wrong number in here. That's supposed to be 15.
That's not gonna help us.
No.
See, what happens every year, I can tell you, Kobe, is we go through all of this, and we don't earmark much for change, and then next week, Scott comes in with the numbers for what it's gonna do to the tax rate, and then we're scrambling around trying to
And
find.
we see where,
Do
see where you can reduce, it doesn't affect, but you still have to fund the departments and, yeah.
Conservation Commission,
Gain.
yeah, about $1,400 maybe,
Yeah.
something like that. They do a lot of stuff.
They
I
do.
think they're good.
Yeah, if you don't, their Trails Committee, I don't know, those
Amazing.
people are insane,
Mm.
because they do so much for the town, especially repairing bridges and all the upkeep that they do, and they're
These
very
are the
passionate
numbers
about
we were
it,
talking
so.
about, John.
Earlier,
Yeah.
yeah.
No bonds, and then the rest of it's transfer station.
No, not transfer station.
Oh.
That's,
Transfers to the capital reserve fund.
yes.
Mm.
I'm only correcting you for Kobe's sake.
That's good.
There you go.
Any other thing that is not in here is any merit increases, any bonuses, or any cost of living increases. So most likely we're gonna do something for cost of living. I don't know about bonuses or merits, we haven't talked about that yet. But definitely there's gonna be some issues in terms of salary movement for department heads, so.
Is that coming from Andy, or what are you? is he
No, that's coming from me.
Getting, no, I mean, getting that information together?
It's gonna be a
What it's
conversation.
gonna be?
Yeah, it's gonna be a conversation. We have information from the fire chief, and we also have information from the police chief in terms of what areas are paying. We don't have anything for the town administrator's salary, so that's something we have to get. So,
Well, he put himself in for
yeah,
$700.
he did. Well, yeah, what was it? No, was it $700? No.
That's all you
Yeah,
said?
$700, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's gotta-
I'd say
he's
that's-
gotta, you know,
He's got a
All
new
those
puppy.
vet bills, he's
All the
gotta
vet
pay
bills.
for
Isn't that adorable?
castration.
So last year, we had a conversation around this time about putting all the town employees on the STEP program. Did that
Something-
actually happen, or?
No, I asked them to do something like that, because right now, the fire department has one, but I think it expires. He's checking into that for us, that's something I asked at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Why does it
Um,
expire?
The STEP program will be for everybody, so we have to look at that. So right at the moment, the answer is no.
But they are
that's
still-
something we're looking for.
You are
Because-
still looking at.
Yep, well, I'm looking,
Or,
I assume Rebecca is, Dave, I'm not sure. So,
it's being looked into as something that we're gonna start in the,
well, at least for the fire department, it's an incentive for people to stay, because they know.
no,
if
I know,
stay-
we already did that.
Yeah.
So
Well, that
you're gonna
was-
continue that and
Why would
hopefully
it
expand
expire?
it.
What's the?
Because we authorized it for 2 years and that was it.
Oh, just as a test, like a?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you see that being extended?
My intention would be to extend it, yes.
It seems to
But,
be
you know, it
doing
takes two,
well.
I know.
takes two to tango. So,
But that is something you're gonna extend, it seems to be going well, and you're looking into it for all the other
Yeah.
departments.
well, like I've always said,
Employees.
if it's good for one group, it should be
No,
good for
that's
everybody.
great, yeah.
Because when you start treating different groups differently, because they all talk, they know what everybody else is making.
Not only that, I mean, it's something that's fair, and like, we asked about it last year, and just wondered if it was
Yep.
being pursued.
And we were talking about tax collector, the other position that's open is select person. Rebecca's not running again,
I know.
so,
You get to change your
With
mind.
retention.
no,
I-
she's not very happy with me.
Oh,
Yes, because when I recruited her, I said blah, 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 and she says, no, it's more work than that. And she's got 2 little kids, she works now,
yeah.
so she's like straight out,
Of course.
so. But yeah, she's been very good,
Is that this year?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is this her
she's-
last year?
Yeah, she's,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
she's not renewing for another term. so.
And
Um,
Dave, you don't know,
So in terms of what we need for information for our next meeting? I think
Well, you need the thing from the fire department, the fire truck thing, and you need to take a look at this after I fill in all the numbers. And when I get the information on Thursday, I'll do the summary sheet, so I should be able to send that out before our next meeting. So you can get an idea in terms of if we went through everything and gave them everything they wanted.
Now, is,
and see where we're
for
at.
Kobe's benefit, because we're about to put her on the spot again, we have to have a number for a vote by the end of the next meeting.
Yes, unless you meet another time. But yes.
Are you going to be able to get any additional information on the police situation? Or should we just deal with it as a budget
Yes,
item and
yes
not?
and no. On the 20th, we meet on the 25th of November, and that is going to be a topic of conversation, because we have to find out what he's doing. So,
I think it's reasonable for us to ask, because his budget was predicated on a plan that
Mhm.
doesn't sound like it still exists. I don't wanna,
It might, he just probably suggested that if, that he would think about that, if it was a possibility. We don't know exactly what he's,
Yep.
I mean,
until he tells us definitively what he's doing.
well, we can't ask him for a definitive answer, just to do a
Or can
budget.
ask him for a definitive answer.
I mean, just to do a budget, we can't.
Oh.
That's not fair.
Well, the thing is, no matter
we'll
what,
talk to
if
Tom
if
as
he,
a
if
friend.
he
and see what
retires
he wants
and you
to-
wanna hire somebody, he's thinking 110,000, that's what it's gonna cost you. If the chief decides not to retire, the money is there.
Does he want the 110 if he doesn't retire? So that means we really realistically have to increase all the other department heads and all of his guys, so.
But the thing is, he came to us and had a conversation, oh, excuse me, I'll take that back. He and I had a conversation. He is tired of getting woken up at 2 AM in the morning to deal with whatever it is. So he says he's getting older. Well, no, he's getting,
That's why I
He said
wondered about
mature
this
or
whole
something.
conversation, because that's why I was saying what's best for Tom.
I know.
Because Tom was saying this, and I think he is tired, and he has worked like incredibly hard, so we just need to have the conversation with Tom, I think,
Well,
But if you
to see what he really
So-
wants to do.
So we need him to show up for the next select board meeting, right?
he's supposed to.
November 25th.
Fifth.
And so
Okay.
he's gonna.
Is there anybody else we need to come back because we need further clarification about
The
anything?
ABC, right?
How much more information do we need about paving and asphalt?
That's a plug too. But we get our little hatchet out and we arbitrarily cut hatchet.
And he's not gonna give you any answers anyway, he tries to do
doesn't
the
know.
best he can
He
to
does
Oh.
what he can,
pay whatever he
and
can.
it costs what it costs.
Transfer station, we asked a question about the tipping, the bulky waste thing.
Yeah.
Because I know the rate's going up, but is he assuming tonnage is down? I gave him the information, so that's the only other thing to ask that I could think of. Paving, of course, and also the rental assistance. So,
Excuse me.
those are the things that I had asterisked.
Should we completely confused you, Cody?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
Yeah, those are the three things we asterisked. So we can ask Steve about the tipping fees, we can ask Steve about the paving, we can ask Andy about the rental assistance.
Is John coming back next time?
He said he was.
Mhm.
Okay, do we need him, or is he just coming to be?
Well, I think you have at least 3 sections that you're gonna have to determine what you're gonna do. So you have the town, whatever it is, the town buildings,
Yeah.
you have the
Fire equipment, library, and town buildings.
so
We also, yes,
That was one more.
government
I haven't said anything
cemetery,
for the library, I'd leave it at
and we
zero.
are holding the welfare,
They-
yeah.
and we already said fire.
Yeah.
So, oh, police. So we have 3, police, government, building, cemetery, and fire. So those are the hard ones. Do, police chiefs, do you guys do like multi-year contracts with your administrators, or?
We used to have contracts and we don't have any anymore.
Oh.
So they're at will, just like everybody else.
Yep.
Why's that?
They eliminated the
Because
contract.
we took them away.
There was a
many
contract
years
with
ago?
a particular employee and then not with
yes
any of
and
the
no.
others.
It's a two-sided,
Coin.
yes, yes. I was on the board when we had a contract for the town administrator, the fire chief, and the police chief. The board decided that they were gonna do away with contracts because the town administrator was up. So we said to all 3 of them, we're not doing contracts, we're not renewing them. So we told them officially that we were doing that. The board in the next meeting, 2 meetings after that, decided, oh, we're gonna keep the contract for the town administrator, but we're gonna get rid of the police and fire chief. That created a lot of bad blood. Yeah.
Almost a real.
And it remained for a few years.
Yes.
And then the town administrator left, so her contract was gone. So that's a sore point. So if you bring it up to either the chiefs and say, oh, we're thinking about contracts, don't do that, because you're just gonna piss them off. Make them irritated, how about that?
I don't talk to them, I don't have a personal relationship. That's
He
why I can
knows,
say.
he's just saying.
I don't know him, he's
It
not
was
my
not
friend.
good, it was not good, it was not
I
good.
didn't mean that.
That's okay.
Well, I did, but.
Water under the bridge.
Are we still on?
Move on.
Oh, yeah, you're still on,
Okay.
Are
so
we done for that?
we can be.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second,
So moved, second.
so moved, whatever.
And
All in favor?
Aye.
he's taking over your
Aye.
party.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I was still trying to.
There we go.
Motion.
So the other thing that I'll bring back to you as well, which will be on that sheet, no, it won't be on the sheet, is the fund balance, what we've got left.
It was a very long day.
Because the other thing you can do, it kind of masks the tax rate, but you can say certain things will come out of the,
Balances.
yeah, I don't think it's $2.1 million.
Is that the number the auditor gave you, or is it?
They're saying the fund balance